So think back to your last 40K game and the table that you played on, your army versus your opponent's army, going back to turn one before you start anything. Throughout the game, win or lose, did you control the center of the table? That's the tactic I want to explore in this podcast and share with you some 40K fundamentals. I'm building up my archive here, back up on YouTube, and doing it correctly this time, taking your advice, putting everything into organized videos, Warhammer 40,000, Dungeons & Dragons, Battletech, and then we're going to break it out in terms of 40K down by the armies that I enjoy exploring and playing: Tyranids, Necrons, Space Marines, Chaos, Tau, possibly, Space Wolves, possibly, Sisters of Battle when that happens on there. But in building that, I feel that there are certain fundamentals that are always in play, regardless of the army that you are playing. These fundamentals are going to refine and make your army tactics that much better. And this is why controlling the center of the table, in my opinion, is so important. So we're going to divide the table up into three imaginary sections. My deployment zone, where I'm standing, that's one band of the table, maybe about 12 or 16 inches in. Your deployment area, your side of the table, 12 to 16 inches in. And then that third band in the middle is going to be the midfield. Within that midfield, the center point of the table, we're going to place a marker, a D6 or a model or an objective. And then from there, we're going to radiate out an imaginary circle, 360 circle. Is there any other circle? 12 inches. That is the midfield. If you can control the midfield in the shooting phase, in the movement phase, and in the assault phase, this will give, regardless of what army you're playing, assault-based army, hybrid, shooty, movement, assault army, gun line, delayed gun line, it's going to give you a tremendous advantage because we are taking advantage of two stress points in 40K. One, the physical limitations of the gaming table. In most cases, you're not allowed to move off the gaming table, which means if you're on one of the sides, if I place one of my units on the left side of the gaming table, my left side, you can't attack from that left side. It limits your areas of approach. Likewise, the weapons profile, the range of weapons, and the distance of assault means if I'm on the left side of the table, my left side, so I guess that's your right side, if on my left side of the table, I might not have range based on the weapons that the unit is carrying to the opposite side of the table, all the way over on the right. I'll have access to the center, right? If I'm in my deployment zone, my weapons profiles, most of them will be able to shoot to the center, but with the exception of some heavier long-range weapons, I can't make it into your deployment zone. Contrast this with something like, well, in 40K, the weapons profiles are artificially short to have some control over the game and bring movement into it because of the scale and the size of the gaming table. Contrast this with Chain of Command, historicals, World War II. The scale is smaller, and for the range of this game, it's unlimited, meaning there's a short range, which will give you a bonus to hit, but essentially, if I can see it on the other side of the table, I've got my Panzer III, and I'm playing on a really long table. If I can draw a line of sight to one of your units and I can see it, I can shoot it. The range of most weapons on a tabletop battlefield, realistic war game, right? Are those two words combining well? It is essentially unlimited range, but in 40K it's not. So we want to take advantage of this. What this means is if I can take a unit, now what that unit is, that's going to depend on what you're playing and what's going on, and I can park that unit in the center of the table. With shooting, this creates a threat bubble. Let's say I just dump in 3 or 4 tac squads up there, or in my Chaos Space Marine army, which we're checking out here, Hail Horus, into the Dark Gods. We're looking at this. If I take massive amounts of cultists, yeah, you're going to shoot at them and they're just going to evaporate. But for the points I'm paying, it's nothing. And the midfield magnifies the strength of the cultists. I put down multiple small groups, multiple big groups, and I lock them down on there. Now, their movement combined with the weapons profile that they can shoot, put that in the center, draw 360-degree field of fire, threat bubble around that, I'm going to threaten everything. If you deep strike into my deployment zone to try and take out something, I'm going to easily have weapon line of sight to there, in addition to whatever I have in my deployment zone. If I want to push into your deployment zone, I've got weapon range to there. If anything comes into that midfield band, I've got range there. Not to mention the physical tabletop, by having my units there, all right, some units can fly over, but most units are not, you're not going to be able to run through them without engaging them. So if I shut down that center 12-inch bubble radius area, you've got to go to the right or you've got to go to the left. That's going to push you up against the hard table edges. That's going to limit your area of movement. That's going to allow me to win the mission by gaining superior position. And rather than taking on all of your army, if I can divide it into thirds, now we're going to slice the gaming table into opposite ways, into thirds, and scatter your army, what that means is by controlling the center and adding those shots on with whatever I have else in my deployment zone, that means if you have one unit of tactical marines, I can take 2 or 3 units of cultists, plus some havocs, and some cornate berserkers, and throw them against that one unit. I can take large segments of my army, power levels of my army, and throw them against smaller groups of yours and just evaporate your army. This is a fundamental technique in 40K. This is a fundamental layer that you are going to refine based on the army that you have. And we're certainly going to look at it. So I'm building up the archive here. I'm building up the 40K fundamentals, and then we're going to jump into the armies. And the question is, once these are completed, once I've got that fundamental up in the podcast archive and up on my blog, the link is down there under this podcast /vlog, what army should we hit up first? Necrons, Grey Knights, Black Templars, Eldar, Samhan, Harlequins, or Footdar? Or should we be looking at Tyranids? I've been playing Grey Knights a lot recently. I've been enjoying it. I am now ready personally in 40K. I mean, I'm still playing Chaos. I'm still doing Black Templars. But I feel like I'm now in a really good position to start moving heavily on Tyranids, because I haven't been giving them enough love. If you can love space bugs, if they're capable of receiving and feeling love, I haven't been giving them the love yet. And out of all my armies in 8th edition, it is the army I've been playing the least. Meaning I've got some great ideas, and I've tried out some good foundation stuff, but I really want to kind of move and push on with the space bugs. Your thoughts after we get them up? Where should we start? What army should we start looking at?